الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونؤمن به ونتوكل عليه ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلله فلا هادي له ونشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له ونشهد أن سيدنا ومولانا محمدا عبده ورسوله صلى الله تعالى عليه وعلى آله وأصحابه وبارك وسلم تسليما كثيرا أما بعد فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم يا أيها الذين آمنوا كلوا من الطيبات واعملوا صالحا إني بما تعملون عليم صدق الله العظيم وقال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم ألا إن في الجسد مضغة إذا صلحت صلحت الجسد كله وإذا فسدت الجسد كله ألا وهي القلب أو كما قال صلى الله عليه وسلم. Respected brothers and elders, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has connected each and every single one of us with the life of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. And that life of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, a lot of times we talk about the spiritual aspect of it. And a believer, when it comes to his spiritual nourishment, and when it comes to his spiritual well-being, and all of that is connected to the actions that he is doing. If the actions that he is doing are correct, then the spiritual well-being of a person stays intact and it stays healthy. And that person has the ability to do more. And on the other hand, if a person is lacking in his spirituality, is disobeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then his spiritual body is not working at its optimal level, and he's more prone to falling into the disobedience of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And he's more prone to staying away from the right and fulfilling the rights of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and he's prone to picking the life of what shaitan wants. That's why it comes in the narration that when a person commits a sin and he does not repent on that sin, so every single sin that he commits, there is a spot that's put on his heart until he commits enough sins where his heart is completely covered. And when that heart gets completely covered, then that person is not able to take right, and he's not even able to differentiate between wrong. Right? Then no matter what right you bring in front of him, the eyes of his heart are completely shut. That person cannot tell between right and wrong and what he is doing. And then years later he realizes how far away he is from the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and from the life of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. So that's one aspect of a person, right? And we talk about it constantly and we hear about it, and the reason we do it is because most of our effort needs to be put into that. But the second aspect is the fact that what are we doing to the physical aspect of our body, right? The physical nourishment of our body. And that also plays a part in the connection with how our spiritual aspects will be taken care of. So if a person puts halal food, if a person puts permissible food in his body, if it's bought with permissible means, meaning the job that he has, the wealth that he's using to consume that food, right, to buy the food and then consume it, if that is correct, then also that is going to have an effect on his spiritual aspect of his body. And because what you're putting into your stomach is going to be a means of the output that you're going to have when it comes to the ibadat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's why a lot of times Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks in the Quran that all believers eat from the pure and the wholesome foods. And that itself has many different aspects to it. So the first basic is that as Muslims you eat halal food, you eat some things which are permissible. And a lot of times we see that people don't look at the ingredients, they don't look at what's being placed in those foods, right? And then they just start eating it. And then when that person, when it comes to the ibadat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he comes and he says, you know what, I just don't feel like doing it. Right? Sometimes it happens, you just feel sluggish, you feel lazy, you're ready to do anything else. Person does the play for 2, 3, 4, 5 hours, it's fine. You want to watch something for many hours, or something that just takes a lot of work, fixing your car or whatever it is, a person has the energy to do it. But the moment you tell the person, stand up and read Salatul Dhuhr, and 10 rakats, I really want to pray 12 rakats right now, it's hard. But when you want to go to the masjid for Salatul Asr, it's hard, right? The reason is because a person's spiritual aspect isn't there, and the food that he's consuming, that has a connection with that. So the basic is that a person makes sure that he's eating permissible foods, right? So the meat that he's eating is completely halal. Right? And that itself has many, many different aspects to it. We don't have time to go into that, but suffice to say that we make sure that we are eating permissible foods. Secondly is the fact that we eat wholesome, pure, how we know it as nowadays, organic foods. Especially in America, you find that a lot of the food that we have, it's not in reality what it's advertised as. So you might be eating fruits, but in reality it has injected with so many different things that the qualities that fruit is supposed to bring to you, it has nothing left into it. Right? The juices that we have, right? The sugars that are put into it, and different aspects of that. And then that also plays a part in that person's health. And when a person isn't healthy, he does not have the ability to make the ibadat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's why the ulama mentioned that every time you eat food, what intention are you eating the food with? Right? Sometimes we don't even think about this aspect. Right? We eat the food is because I'm hungry, so I start eating. Right? That's all we think of, right? At most, I'll read the dua. But what intention am I eating the food with? Have we ever pondered over that? Right? And based off of that intention, your eating of the food will also be considered ibadat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So if your intention is so that you get energy to play, to go to work, then it's an okay intention, but there's no actual reward for that. But now if your intention is, now I'm eating this food, I'm having this breakfast, so that I can assist the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I'm having this lunch, so that I can have enough energy where I can go to the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Just that intention. I have enough energy to stand in salah, and I won't get tired after 10 to 15 minutes. Then that person, his food, every single morsel he's taking, that person is going to be rewarded by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on the basis of that. So that intention that you're having. And again, focusing on the fact that we're eating good food. And it's something which is very hard to, like I said before we started, I'm going to speak about something which many of us, including myself, we don't do. Right? So staying away from stuff like, obviously a person he has a sweet tooth, sometimes you gravitate towards that. But a lot of times what happens is even within the children, the child will not eat good food. You try to feed him the food that's made at home, he just won't have it. But the moment you bring a bag of chips, the moment he finds out where that candy is hidden, right away he'll start yelling for that and he'll eat it. You won't even have to force him. Right? So that's what we need to avoid. And a lot of times what happens is, through parents, they'll try to avoid it for the first few days, but then it just gets too hard. Because the child doesn't want to have food and he just easily eats this. So then we end up giving it to the child. But long term, the issues that come with that, those are things which, especially nowadays, you find different diseases and different things that come into a person. Right? And he goes to the doctor and there are just no solutions. Eventually what happens is, and the person just starts popping pills. So he'll start taking these over-the-counter medications. He has a basic headache, for example. Right? Now he doesn't look at what's the reason of the headache. Am I looking at the screen too much? Right? Am I not focusing on my sleep? Right? Nowadays you have 2-3 hours of sleep you get, you feel a little bit tired, you get a Red Bull, you start drinking it. 5-hour energy, you drink it. Right? So you trick your mind. But the effect that's happening on your body, you're just band-aiding over it. You're not really putting a solution to the problem. Right? So the solution to that is you have to get adequate sleep. Right? What the teaching of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is that once a person reads Salatul Isha, he goes to sleep. Right? Especially in the Hanafi madhab, it's mentioned that a person should delay his Isha a little bit, especially in the winter month. So we have Isha at 6:30, 6:45. No one's going to bed by 7 o'clock. Right? So the ulama mentioned that you delay it a little bit, 8:30, assuming it's convenient for everybody. Not every masjid is like that. But if it's convenient, right, you delay it. And one of the wisdoms is so that as soon as you pray Isha Salah, you go to bed. Right? So you don't spend that time in different things which are useless. You don't spend your time in the disobedience of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because a person is more prone to that during the night time. Right? Because that's what the night brings, the disobedience of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the teaching is you get adequate sleep, you go to sleep on time, and then you wake up for Salatul Fajr, you wake up for Salatul Tahajjud, and then you don't sleep after that. And then around noon, you're going to get a little bit tired. Sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is that you take a little nap, right? 10, 15, 20 minutes, where you just kind of close your eyes, even if it's not full sleep. And that will give you enough energy to get by throughout the day. Right? So the sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam does not only focus on the spiritual aspect, but it also gives us physical abilities. Right? And each and every single action of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is there for the betterment of ourselves, to bring your life on tartib, right? To bring your life on a system. When a person has a schedule, then that person is able to, if he's able to abide by that schedule, then you can see that that person is functioning and that person is able to have a good life, and he's able to profit in his life. Right? He's able to benefit himself and he's able to benefit others. Right? So that sleep will come and the person will just get an energy drink, and then in order to mask it, he'll go out throughout his day. And then every night goes by like that. And then years later, you'll find out the person has issues. You're not getting adequate sleep. A person has a headache. What's the reason you have a headache? Maybe you're not drinking enough water. Maybe you're not sleeping on time and getting enough sleep. And so what do? Just take a Tylenol, take an ibuprofen, and then a lot of times what happens is throughout the week, you'll take it every other day. Right? So all of these medications are there when you need them, but they should not be abused. Right? So the person doesn't want to tackle the actual problem of sleep, of drinking water, of eating good food, but he just wants to mask it so that he's able to do and eat whatever he wants, right? And then whatever happens, he'll just take the medication. That's why even within children, many issues are coming up now. Right? One of the children that just last week, 10 years old, he passed away of cancer. Right? Now obviously it's the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? And in some situations, certain things happen. But a lot of times it's because of the environment we put our children in. And because of the foods that they have, and the stuff that they're eating, and the situations that are in. Because if you look back in the day, many issues weren't there that we see today. Why was it? They might not have had enough wealth, as much money as we have today. Right? But the food that they were eating, it was wholesome food. It was food which was straight from the source. It did not have anything injected into those things. They were staying away from sugary foods. Right? And all of these things played a part in them having a long, happy, healthy life. Right? Like for example, my grandfather. Right? He used to be a wrestler back in the day. MashaAllah, he's over 80, Allah give him a long life. But the way he's able to move around and he's able to walk around, it's all because of the food that he ate and how he kept himself in shape. And because of that, he's able to do what he does nowadays. And at the same age, you see a lot of people, again, not every situation is the same. A person has, and there's always exceptions to that. But because of all of the entire years that we have been spending in all of these things, right, and not taking care of a person's body, which is the amana of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah has given you a body, it's a trust from Allah. The ulama, they give the example, that for example, if I go on a trip, and I give you my car keys, and say, hey, watch out for my car, I'm going to be out for a few months, just every few weeks, turn it on, drive it around, so the battery doesn't die. Right? So what does that mean? That just means that just take care of my car. If anything happens, just take care of it. That doesn't mean you can take it, you can start driving it north and south, go to Seattle, go to LA, go to San Diego, go to Vegas. Right? You're not allowed to do that. It's an amana from me to you. Just take care of my car. I trust you. Right? If anything happens, right, and it wasn't your fault, then even in Sharia, you have no liability on you. Because you were told to take care of it, you tried your best. If anything happens, for example, like the rains that come. Right? Sometimes they damage the cars. Or the trees that fall on the cars. You're not liable because I gave you an amana, it wasn't your fault. Khalas. Right? You just hand back the keys and say, hey, this is what happened. Right? But you're not allowed to use it however you want to use it. It's not your car, it's my car. Just like that, the body that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given to us, the wealth that Allah has given to us, right? The children that Allah has given to us, they're all given from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And they're all not our property. It's the amana of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's why Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he mentioned, إِنَّ اللَّهَ تَعَالَى سَائِلٌ كُلَّ رَجُلٍ عَمَّا اسْتَرْعَى حَفِظَ أَمْ ضَيَّعَ حَتَّى يُسْأَلَ الرَّجُلُ عَنْ أَهْلِ بَيْتِهِ. Totally opposite what we are taught. That do whatever you want. Right? Nobody is there to question me. Right? How dare you question me? I only live once. I can do whatever I want. Don't tell me what's right and what's wrong. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions, and Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam says in a hadith, that every single person, when he goes back to Allah, Allah will question him on the amana and the responsibility that person was given. So your body was a responsibility. How did you use it? Not only how did you take care of it spiritually, but also physically. Right? What did you put inside of that body? What foods did you have? Did you take care of that? Did you exercise? Did you keep your body in shape so that you were able to do both aspects? Take care of your family, work-wise, take them out. Right? Sometimes a person, by the time he's 40, 50, he's not even able to play with his children. Why? Because his health isn't there anymore. And all of the years of misuse of his physical aspect and putting stuff into his body, it all turns into it all catches up to you in life later on. Right? So all of these things are there so that you can have a good life. Right? I believe, I think it's and we'll end with this. And it's a practical example for us, right? I believe it's in Costa Rica. They have a place called the Blue Zone. And that Blue Zone, they don't bring anything from outside. So nothing is imported. Right? Very few things, like in terms of food, nothing is imported. So they have their own animals, they have their own vegetation, and everything is grown organically, and they have nothing else. They said the average lifespan of a person that lives over there is close to 100 years. Right? And that person, if you look at the diseases that are there, very minimal. Again, like I said, there's always exceptions. Allah gives health to whoever He wants, and He gives sickness to whoever He wants. But because of the stuff that they put in their body, because it's organic, because it's wholesome, because it's good, they're able to function, they have long, healthy lives, and they're able to do what they want. Right? So just like that, if we take care of our spiritual aspect and our physical aspect, you'll find that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will bless us, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will minimize our risk of diseases and sicknesses. Like I said, it's all in the hands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We make Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us the ability to put this into practice. Wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.